hearing. We have two public hearings, right? Same time, Mark?
Correct.
It's the first one, will we do them separately?
Separately.
Separate presentations? So the first one we're going to do is illicit discharge and connection stormwater ordinance. And I believe we have our town engineer here, Mr. Jim Grappone.
Assistant Engineer, Mr. Grappone, yeah. And
Our
I'm not sure-
assistant engineer, Mr.
I'm not sure
Grappone.
if the chair of the ordinance committee wants to introduce it, but Jim's here, obviously, to do his little bit.
Okay,
I think I'll defer to Jim on this one. It's a little technical.
Okay.
sounds
Go ahead,
good.
Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Bill.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council. Jim Grappone, Assistant Town Engineer. The proposed illicit discharge detection and elimination ordinance is part of the MS4 general permit. MS4, which stands for Small Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, is a product of a mandate by the US EPA as part of its Stormwater Phase 2 rules in 1999. So it's been around for a while, unfortunately. This general permit requires each municipality to take steps to keep the stormwater entering its storm sewer system clean before it enters stormwater bodies. The permit requires reporting of 6 minimal control measures, one of which illicit discharge detection and elimination is one of the 6 minimum controls measures. Connecticut Deep implemented a deadline goal of a written IDDE program in July of 2018, so it's been sitting out there for a while. Municipalities have kind of sat on it to wait for a draft ordinance to come forward, which it has. Groups like Connecticut NEMO and Yukon Clear have spearheaded the drafting of the model ordinance. And the model ordinance has issues such as prohibiting illicit discharge to its storm sewer system, investigate suspected illicit discharges, control discharge of spills, remove and eliminate illicit discharges, including from those properties not owned or operated by the town, and discharge into the MS4 as soon as they become possibly upon detection. Where elimination is not possible within 60 days of its confirmation, establish a schedule for elimination in no more than 180 days, and that's addressed in the draft ordinance. It also authorizes penalties and fines to recoup the permittee's costs. So that's just an overview of what the program's all about. It's a requirement of the state Connecticut DEP. It's something that a lot of towns are just starting to catch on the wave and just drafting it and making it part of their ordinances.
Thank you, Jim. And for the record, this was requested by the Assistant Town Engineer, Mr. Grappone, but also proposed by Councilman Tony Morrison, according to our policy. Any questions for the Assistant Town Engineer?
Just to continue on, we've also vetted it at Public Works, and then it went to the Ordinance Committee as far as a recommendation coming forward to the council.
That's great. Thank you. Val, you had a question?
Just quickly, Jim, you had just mentioned the 180 days. Is that, in our draft, we have a couple highlighted sections where the days are left blank? Is that what you were referring to?
Yes, I think some of them was left blank. So this I took from the Connecticut NEMO website, so I think that's a recommendation of what the actual permit from DEEP is, so we could fill in those blanks.
So that it'll be at the 180 days?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, I just happened to see that.
Any other questions? Hearing none, maybe we'll open it up for the public, and then we'll go on to the second one. Thank you, Jim. Okay, is there anybody from the public who would like to speak on the illicit discharge and connection stormwater ordinance? Anybody from the public looking to speak on this public hearing? Okay, hearing none, why don't we move to the next, actually, we close this public hearing? We're going to close this public hearing, hearing no comments from the public. And we are going to go on to the second public hearing, sewer exclusion zone ordinance, which also is proposed by Tony Morrison. And I think it's going to be presented by our town attorney.
That's correct. I'll apologize in advance to the council and the hundreds of people in the audience this evening. I had some dental work earlier today, so I feel like Bill Cosby from a comedy show years ago. I can't feel or stop speaking with a pretty heavy lisp, so forgive me if I sound a little punch drunk. Councilman Morrison introduced this ordinance, and quite frankly, it was probably long overdue. I chaired this committee 7 years ago, and it was an issue then, so it's finally come to fruition and at least been proposed before this council and the town as a whole. The purpose of section 345-33 is to regulate what we're going to generically call the service zones or service areas from the non-service areas. And the purpose or the objective behind that is to eliminate overtaxing the system as it is now and has been for some time. I think this council as a whole, and then what follows the council meetings at home, know that the system has been taxed. There's been a tremendous amount of money, time, energy, and effort to get our system up running and on par with its needs. This regulation or ordinance, I should say, I apologize, takes it one step further in trying to eliminate that. If I can summarize what amounts to 2 pages of text, the objective or the goal of this is we will have a delineated areas that are service areas and non-service areas. There won't be any spot zoning that would under this ordinance that would permit them to be interchangeable. However, there can be what is referred to in the ordinance as trading. And what I mean by that is that an individual, a contractor, a company, landowner, whomever, has the opportunity to trade off area or properties that are within the designated area or service area for other pieces or parcels in that regard. So it's not it's not an ironclad proposal that would allow or not allow individuals that are not permitted as of now to utilize the service, to shut the door on them forever. It just means have to be creative so that there'll be a trade-off. In section B, I believe it's section B, section B specifically states that if we were to be traded, the person would have to be comparable in size and use. For example, it's delineated in there, 1.2 bedrooms shall be dedicated to the sewer service area for every 1 bedroom under a new sewer service area, formerly deemed a non-sewer service area. So it sounds like I may be complicating a relatively simple concept. The idea is we want to delineate and clarify what the service areas are and the non-service areas are. We want to try to keep them as status quo as possible. It doesn't mean there can't be some horse trading where we can designate a parcel that is within the service area and be later deemed to be accessible even though it's a non-service area, but it has to be at a minimum an even trade, or more than an even trade, to be honest with you, 1.2 versus 1. I'd be happy to answer questions that anybody has.
And just for clarification, if it's okay, there's also some other provisions that require submission to DEEP, to the town council, to the sewer authority, and then any costs that are borne with such an application or such a request would be the sole, the person who's making the request would carry all costs associated with making those happen, whether it's new maps, application fees, whatever that is. All of those are part of the person making the request.
And I should have clarified that, yes.
Yep.
The latter portions of the ordinance are more, I guess, housekeeping in that in relation, but this will be zero cost to the town. The applicant will be responsible for any costs associated with revisions, maps, filings, DEP approval, DEP, I apologize. And what's telling and equally as important is no approval will be granted unless or until all of the fees are paid by that applicant. So it's a zero-cost gain or change for the town.
And there's just to be clear, you mentioned the 1.2 for those who are watching. It's essentially a 20% penalty for making a swap, right? You're giving up 20%, and the town is getting a favorable 20% number of bedrooms in order to consider such a change. Okay,
That
good.
doesn't
That's
guarantee, as is clearly stated in the proposed ordinance, is that doesn't guarantee it's going to be approved. That's the minimum requirement for submission.
understand. That's in section B. Okay. Any questions for the
Just,
town
just,
attorney?
just one comment. We spent a lot of time with this ordinance, the language at the committee level, but I do want to give a shout out to Alicia Novi, who's an attorney who helped a lot with this too. She had a lot of good changes, so just give her some credit.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody? Chris?
Just, not a question, but a comment. Just to emphasize what you were saying, Paul. I like that this now puts the town in a position where we're no worse off, because I know we've had these come before us before where we may be losing some of this serviceable area or non-serviceable area to our sewer zones. So I really like that it's increased now the 1.2 to the 1.0 ratio. So the town actually isn't even just even, but really benefits from this as well, so.
And even then, it's not a guarantee. It's not an
Right,
automatic
right,
approval.
right. But if it was approved, the town would still be in a better position than if it
20%
weren't.
gain.
Great,
Yep.
thank you.
Which means 20% less use
Right.
of the sewer system.
Right.
Yeah, for those parcels, yep.
At a minimum.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, hearing no questions from the council, we're going to open this up for public comment. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment on the sewer exclusion zone ordinance public hearing? Anybody here to speak about the sewer exclusion zone ordinance public hearing? Okay, hearing none, we will close this public hearing and we will move into our regular meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Jack Perry.
Here.
Jennifer Klock.
Here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo.
Here?
William Dietzick.
Here.
James Morelli.
Here.
Tony Morrison.
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here, all members are present. Would you please stand for a prayer and flag salute?
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening asking for your direction and guidance. Keep us focused tonight on what is best for Southington and her people. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. We are looking for a motion for the minutes of our last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have a motion and a second. Are there any discussions? Okay, hearing no, anybody going to abstain on this? Bill? Just one? Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And we have one abstention.
Abstain.
Bill, okay. So the motion passes 8-0-1. Moving on to councilperson communications.
Mr. Chair, I've got
Yes,
a couple of
Mr. Del
items.
Santo, yep.
Over the last couple of weeks, I had the pleasure of attending the Wall of Honor at the Summit a couple of weeks ago. It's a wonderful little service that they do over there for veterans. Everyone knows the way I feel about veterans. It's a very special event that we get invited to each year, and Mr. Poulos was there. Chris's dad went and spoke, did a really good time, a really good job. Mr. Chair was there, Mr. Vice Chair was there. It was a brief ceremony, but you can see the delight and the joy in the veterans' eyes that they give something for them. They had cookies and cupcakes, and it was a really nice event at the Summit. So, very nice. And then last Thursday, I had the pleasure with Councilman Palmieri and Councilman Perry here in this room celebrating 9 students that are off to the military after they graduate high school. And I believe it was the 6th year in a row they said that someone is going to either to a service academy. We have a young man that's going to be going to the Air Force Academy, so that's something. to have, to get into those service academies is
You
just.
just missed it.
I did, right. I graduated, not with honors. But, I did, but we have someone going to the Air Force this year, which is an incredible achievement. Very difficult to get into those service academies. So I was very delighted to see that. I try to go to this event each year, and I think this is the most, in the last 4 or 5
This is
years
the
I've
most
been
in a
going.
while.
9. I was
Yeah.
really impressed. And what a good group of students, men and women, going on to our military. So we cherish those folks. The Southington High School softball and the Southington High School baseball teams each won their division, so they're off to the state tournament. The men's team is undefeated. So it's the first time they're like 22-0, first time since 1990.
23.
19.
23-0, right. Since 1990, and that's when Mr. Chair and I graduated high school. So I have a couple buddies on that baseball team, so I'm teasing them just a little. Mr. LaPre.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you know, Mr. Mead, Mr. Chopis. I said Mr. Salerno told them all they need a new conversation starter. Another undefeated
New sheriff
team.
in town.
But they got, the 1990 team got knocked out in the semis. So they're holding out hope. They're very hopeful that Southington wins, and they finish the season undefeated. All you gotta do is win the last game. That's all they have to do.
That's it.
So we wish both the high school softball and baseball teams luck. And, Mr. Chair, I do need to ask that we, to make a motion to add something to new business B, the appointment for a member to the Commissions for Persons with Disabilities. So that's my motion. I would need a,
And that expires in
2025,
Yes,
correct.
thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to add, under new business B, appointment of member of the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, expiration 2025. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Del Santo. Any other councilperson communications? Chris?
Yes, I have a couple. Just to elaborate a little bit on the baseball and softball. As we mentioned, the boys right now are 23-0, and their next game is tomorrow. And the softball team is having a great season, too. Their record right now is 19 wins, 3 losses. They won their conference championship as well, and they play tomorrow at home, so which is exciting as well.
And the field is looking great, and it's great to see them playing under the lights once in a while.
It does. It looks great. I had the pleasure last week of attending the SHS Scholarship Night. Just a shout out to all the educators, administrators, teachers, and community members for supporting all our graduating seniors and the many scholarships. So the town as a whole, we gave out our Apple Harvest Annual Scholarship, and the student this year is Cody Robinson. So thank you to Cody for his volunteering efforts during the past several Apple Harvest festivals. So we recognized him at that event. I had the pleasure to attend the gold medal. Jim and Paul were there as well, where Deputy Chief Palmieri, that was May 15th, was recognized and given the gold medal award. So just a shout out to Unico for all they do to recognize so many people with their service to our town. Southington Drive-In is having their opening weekend this coming up Saturday, so that will be open for the summer. That's sponsored by Unico this weekend, so be sure to take advantage of the drive-in throughout the summer season. We're going to be looking for ambassadors for the Apple Harvest Festival. These are specifically for juniors in high school. So if anyone's watching and knows of a junior in high school, there'll be applications available at Southington High School, or you can contact me somehow, and we'll take care of that. And then the last thing is just a huge shout out to the American Legion for the Memorial Day ceremony yesterday. I know most of us were there. Unfortunately, we couldn't have the parade, but they really just did a fantastic job. A lot of us were saying, too, how nice it was. It was very intimate, the ceremony, and just a really great event put on by the veterans, and I want to thank them for honoring both a police officer and a firefighter for their service to our community as well.
Thank you, Chris.
Welcome.
Anybody else? Councilperson communications?
Well,
Val?
thank you. Just a couple. So I just wanted to mention, Southington Pride did have the Youth and Family Pride Festival May 18th, it was a great success. The rain held off, and really good turnout. So I wanted to thank all the sponsors, the vendors, our volunteers, the police department. They had the command vehicle there, and the kids loved that. And there was an intergenerational performance group that's called Pride 247-365, and they were really phenomenal. So that was nice to be added to the event. And I was reading. I just wanted to mention the Southington Cyber Knights, the robotics team. They are just so phenomenal. I mean, it's kind of like they set the standard, you know, to not just win their state championship, their district championship, but then they go on to the national, and it looks like they were semifinalists in Houston. So they just do a great job every year, and the consistency is just great. So big congratulations, you know, to everybody involved with that. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Val. Others?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair.
I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the Unico Gold Medal. We all, most of us were at that ceremony, and it is quite a honor to get that recognition. It really stands for neighborliness, integrity, and charity, and it's service above self, which really Bill Palmieri is exemplary when it comes to that. I did speak to Bill, and he did mention that he was very proud to get that honor because his parents had both gotten that in the 80s. So congratulations to Bill. Also, I want to reiterate what Chris said about the Veterans Day ceremony. It was also very, very well done. It was touch and go for a little bit. We got a bunch of emails all in a row. Oh, I'm sorry, the Memorial Day ceremony. Anyway, it got pulled off without a hitch in the last minute, and it was a very nice thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All set? Just a couple small items. Adding on to the Barbara Blau from the Summit, always does a great job. And the Wall of Honor, I just wanted to give a shout out to Barbara for all the efforts that she does year after year, and her passion for the veterans and the veterans, especially at the Summit. So thank you to Barbara. At the Memorial Day event at the American Legion, just want to echo also the American Legion's, the importance of the American Legion in our community, and the wonderful program that they put on and that they always put on for Memorial Day. A special shout out, the three people that were recognized, Carson Cook, who is working on his Eagle Scout, was recognized for by the Legion for doing a mapping of the St. Thomas Cemetery to identify the veterans in the cemetery and create a map so that people who visit the cemetery may easily identify the location of the veterans. That project is scheduled to be done here in the next few months, and we look to have Carson at a future town council meeting where we could recognize him as an entire council. Chris, you mentioned a couple of the awards. I just wanted to give a shout out. Master Sergeant Burke was recognized from the Southington Police Department as the American Legion Police Officer of the Year, which is a great honor. A lot of great things about the two people who received the award. And the other was Captain Pozzella from the Southington Fire Department, who was acknowledged as being the Firefighter of the Year from the American Legion. And it was really nice to see the Legion put those awards to each of those hardworking individuals in our community, and we thank them and the Southington Fire Department and then the Southington Police Department. Okay. If there are no other council members.
Sorry, just one more thing, Mr. Chair. You're too modest to say it, but you did give a nice speech.
Thank you.
American Legion.
Thank you. That's very nice. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's move on to reports of special committees. Item A, Library Building Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was not able to attend the last meeting, but I did get an update, and we hear that things are still moving on schedule smoothly. There are some add-ins that we're looking at that we thought we could add in, but we may not be able to get the whole add-in, so we're looking at some options. More to follow on that. And that's just about it.
Okay, questions on the Library Building Committee? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to item B, economic strike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Briefly, we saw an incredible presentation last week at the Economic Strike Committee. A company called Placer Data, where they determine through cell phone applications the location and of where their cell phones are. So they've been doing this since, I believe, 2017. And the way this could possibly help the town, Mr. Barillo's been speaking with this company, and we'll pick it up in the fall, is that they can determine how many people are at a certain place at a certain time without going into demographics, without finding out personal information about folks. What this company does is, I guess they have leases with applications on your phone that have the location setting turned on, which is Google Maps or MapQuest or what's the other one? Waze, to try to figure out where you are. And they put on a presentation. They did a mock-up of the Walmart Plaza and Lake Compounds. And over the last year, they were able to determine that around 500,000 people went through Lake Compounds, and 1.1 million people went through the Walmart Plaza throughout the year, throughout the calendar year. And Lou thought this may be a good idea to work with this company in the future to try to help us if, for instance, there's an empty storefront in a plaza. And it would be a good idea to kind of promote Southington to say, hey, listen, this plaza has an empty storefront. We know that over the last year, 1 million people went into this plaza to shop either at Walmart or at the liquor store or at the UFC fighting place or at the pool place that's in there. So more to follow. Lou was not able to attend the meeting last week. He did say that if we were going to do anything with this company, we'd probably pick it up in the fall. So more to follow. I would like to have the presentation here at our council meeting. It was brief. It was about 20 minutes long, but it was excellent. I'm not sure if Chris or Jack needs to add something. It was a little scary, but really excellent as well.
Just to elaborate on that, so our concern at the committee level was about privacy, and they assured us that that's the main concern they get from everyone that they give this presentation to, and it's really just looking for, they're not looking to personalize the information, it's just to quantify the information so we could market our town best, so.
We talked about, Mr. Perry asked about the apple harvest. You know, they could do a geofencing around the apple harvest for the 3 days or for the 6 days that the apple harvest happened, and they can determine at a pretty good rate of how many people attended the event.
And where they're coming from.
It's just incredible, right, and where they go to, and they know that if their cell phones go back to San Diego, California for the next 2 weeks from 9 p.m. until 6 a.m., it's a pretty good determination that that's where they reside. So they can tell, like, people from California have been to Lake Compounds. It's just incredible, incredible information. So Jack, I'm not sure if you had anything to add.
Yeah, I think it's scary because of the fact that, you know, people are concerned about privacy, but they reassured us that, you know, won't be shared. They don't know anybody's IP addresses. All it is when you use an app, it kind of just identifies that app was used at that location. Another cool thing was it was able to really do a lot of geofencing, like Mr. Del Santo stated, and you could also figure out unique visitors. So you could have had 100,000 people show up. How many were reoccurring? Was it 3 to 1? It was interesting data, and I think on the business front, I think this would help us figure out, you know, what Southington, you know, is tracking.
Trends, right.
Trends, you know, people moving even to Southington, you know, you could figure out, you know, where everybody is kind of going without it being identified of their address. There's no party affiliation, there's nothing except for a phone, use that app at this location.
Right.
So I think it's something that, you know, we should definitely look into. I know we didn't get really into the pricing, so I'm sure that this isn't going to be a cheap one, but I think it's well worth it.
They put one screenshot up of, it was a PowerPoint presentation of the Lake Compounds piece, and then where people go to afterward, there had to have been 30 states that come to lake compounds throughout the United States. They put the whole United States up, and there were arrows to where they were coming from. So real interesting stuff. I don't want to belabor it too much, but I would like to get them back, maybe to come to the town council and put the same presentation on sometime in the fall. And that's basically it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Questions regarding economic strike? Okay. We're going to move on to item 5, the town manager's report.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Please look at your Board of Finance minutes. Page 2 is the first one I'm going to start out on. Based upon your approval of the budget at your last meeting, the Board of Finance approved the new mill rate, which begins July 1st of 31.44. That is the new mill rate for the town of Southington. On page 3, I ask you to read it, but also ask you to look at it. Our Director Babbins, put on a really nice presentation on the programs we have for residential tax deferments and tax relief. And it was something that was requested by a couple members of the Board of Finance, and she did a really nice job. And if you have a chance, obviously, you can check on that. A lot of questions that were answered on that. I know that you had a couple of people come at your last meeting asking questions about that. I believe one of them was at the meeting at the Board of Finance, so a couple of questions were answered on that part of it. So that was well done, and thank you to Teresa on that one. On page 10, hopefully, we're at the end of this, but I transferred $30,000 into the town legal fund for the AMR matter. My understanding is the briefs are just about done. The reply briefs are going to be put in place, and I expect, well, I guess you expect to get an answer in September. I'll be monitoring it very closely. I keep saying I, but I'll be monitoring it very closely, but we expect to have an answer in September on that. As you know,
Throw a message in a bottle.
as you know, at our weekly meetings, the new town manager and I talk about this case quite often, so he's fully briefed on it. Also, page 11, the last meeting, you approved the capital budget, which include funding. This is what we call budget reallocation funding. So if you look at paragraph 23, $651,000 came out of the town departments who are not using that money this year, so that goes into budget reallocation, plus $1 million appropriation that came out of our revenue. As you know, our revenue has been running very well this year. So the $1.7 million, which you approved at your last meeting for budget reallocation, has also been approved now by the Board of Finance. Any questions on the Board of Finance minutes?
Paul, excuse me.
Any questions? Yep. Thank you,
Well,
Mel.
not so many, maybe some questions, but Mark, I'm glad you brought up the presentation that Teresa did. So I was able to, I had looked at the minutes, and then I went and watched that part of the meeting. So I guess a couple things. The presentation is excellent. And I'm just wondering do you think that's something that she should present here so that more residents can hear, can listen to it?
Absolutely, but currently what the Board of Finance is doing, they're putting a committee together with her as one of the ex officios. But certainly, if you want her to come to one of the next meetings in June, I could certainly ask her if she's available for those.
Okay.
But she can put on that
Well,
presentation.
that was my follow-up, too. I think the idea of putting that committee together, that team together, is really good. The resident who spoke at our meeting also was there at the Board of Finance meeting and spoke. He seems very knowledgeable. Has a lot of experience with these programs, and it looks I didn't see the meeting that long to see the conversation, but in the minutes, it says that he offered to be on this committee.
Right. It's not a town council or a manager's committee. This is a committee of the Board of Finance, and I know they have a couple of members that are going to be on it, and they've asked Jim Bowes and Teresa to be kind of more ex officio on it, and this gentleman also volunteered his. I think what I got out of that was the fact that this board, as well as the Board of Finance, when it comes to those programs, we're just about as high as you can possibly be on those. So I was very impressed when T gave the presentation that we're virtually cutting edge. There may be some programs we can look at, but we're very good with the elderly and the veterans
and the
the
disabled
other programs. So we're in good shape.
I've been in touch with Chairman Leary
Chairman Leary
the last few weeks on this.
Okay.
And so I'm aware of the initiative. He's going to advise us on whether there's a need for additional people on his committee. And I'll keep in touch with him, and if we can find the right time to bring that here so it doesn't clash with the committee, but is complementary to the committee's work, that would be good.
It may be fine if we could get a copy of Teresa's presentation to look at, that would be great, you know.
In the minutes?
Was that in the minutes?
Yeah, her
Oh, I didn't
presentation's
have
in the
it.
minutes, but that's
Okay.
not, these are summary minutes, remember. My
Right.
suggestion would be is that, obviously, if you have the time, it was a very short meeting. I think the Board of Finance meeting was less than 45 minutes, and
Mm-hmm.
it's right toward the beginning. If you have time, go on, look at it. Her presentation.
Well, I
is about
did.
15
I
minutes, yeah.
I
No,
watched it.
We do have the
for
full
everybody.
presentation, though.
Right, but
Oh, I
her-
didn't get that.
she also
All right,
talks about it
okay.
too, talks about each one of them, so.
Oh, all
It's in the
right.
packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
all
have it
her-
in-
Yeah,
Okay.
all her presentation is
there.
in there, but I
Okay.
think it's also good for you to hear everything she says, not the summary minutes, but everything she talks about.
Right, I listened to the presentation, and it was really good, so, and maybe the best thing would be let the committee do some work, and then when they come back, Teresa could do that. She could provide the presentation as well.
As
Would be
Chairman
what they
Leary
thought.
mentioned, and obviously it's true, that anything they come up with has to come to the council.
Right,
So the
right.
council is the final authority on it. So that's what they want to do the legwork for the council, and obviously if the chairman already talked to Mr. Leary, then they're already on board on it.
Well, I think it's really important, too, if there's a resident that is offering to be a part of a committee, and he has experience, and he raised some good questions that Teresa was going to look into, you know, I mean, civic engagement for our residents is really important. So I would hope that,
It was a good
you know, I hope that,
presentation.
that Chairman Leary will consider putting him on the committee. I think it would be very helpful.
He seemed very open to it at the meeting.
Right, and he's offering, and I think that's something to, there's something to be said for that, so, okay, thank you.
If there are no other further questions on the Board of Finance minutes, as you know, several months ago, we had a subcommittee which recommended to this board Planet Bids. We said to you at that time, after several months, they were going to be doing training for our people, and we would report back to you on where we currently stand with them and when we're going to start opening up to our bidding process. So our Director of Public Works is here tonight, Ms. Ellis, and she's going to tell you where we currently stand with Planet Bids.
Good evening. At the end of last year, at the very end of last year, several departments were invited to, and most had representatives attend some very detailed virtual training on how to use the Planet Bid software. This included IT, Board of Ed, the wastewater pollution control plant, engineering, highway parks, finance, the assessor's office / tax collector, corporation counsel, and also the town manager's office. Since that time, the accounting manager from the Board of Ed and also the superintendent of the wastewater pollution control plant have taken advantage of some additional training in preparation to put out the following bids for the next fiscal year. For the treatment plant, we have the magnetite feed system, which we're expecting to put out in July. For the Board of Ed, there's the Southington High School West Gym floor refinishing. There's HVAC inspections for air quality and also snow removal. All three of those are anticipated to go out between now and the end of August. The first bid I intend to use Planet Bids for is the streetlight maintenance bid. My plan is to put it out sometime this summer. The account executive assigned to us from Planet Bids is very helpful, and she's always available. I correspond with her often. We're all able to contact her directly with any questions. As Kari, Kyle, and I enter the first few bids, I'm sure we'll be reaching out to her. I don't anticipate any problems with this. Over time, hopefully we'll become more familiar and more comfortable using the software. We'll be more self-sufficient. Our cries for help will hopefully be minimized. But I think that at this point, it might be a good idea to have another update sometime in the fall after a few of these bids have gone out and we possibly have even received some of the results. I'd certainly be happy to report back to the council if you would like. But basically, we've been working behind the scenes to get it off the ground. I think we're finally ready to start entering bids, and I really look forward to see how it streamlines the process and how it affects our results.
Questions for Annette? Jack?
Mr. Chair, thank you. So I'm glad to hear that Planet Bids is still, we all felt as the committee that was the best, and it sounds like they're still the best. So I always get a little skeptical when you move in a direction and then it's like, how does it go after you sign the contract? So glad to hear that, and I just want to thank you and all the departments that are, embracing this, and I definitely think this is something that, will streamline it. It's like a new language, but once everybody learns it,
Right.
I think it'll just make things a lot easier, for everyone. So thank you.
Yes, no problem. And I agree with you. I think, they'll be a great partner along the way. They've been very helpful so far.
Other questions?
Thank you, Annette.
Just one comment from me, Annette. Is there, have you developed what the baseline metrics are going to be so that when we get to the fall timeframe, for example, maybe some historical data on whatever it is the important metrics are that Planet Bids looks to improve upon, whether it's efficiency or maybe cost downs?
I think that's something that we're going to have to look at with each bid. A lot of my bids in particular are repetitive.
Yeah.
The streetlight maintenance.
Snow removal.
Things like that. So I think that'll be interesting to compare how many bids we get and what the prices are. So I think that's more of an internal thing. But going forward too, if we have that all that information in Planet Bids, we can also track how that changes over time. So.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit of a qualitative assessment or feedback from those who use it can maybe say, hey, yeah, I think this is helping, maybe
Sure.
be a little bit more efficient, how much more efficient. Just be good to have some of that information when you come back in the fall.
Sure, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Town Manager.
Chair, I still have 2 more items. All the technical questions will be answered by Tony. He's the chair of the committee, so if you have any technical questions on these, Tony will answer those questions.
It broke, Mark.
The first one is a recommendation from the sewer committee to recommend New England Pump and Value for an influent check value repair project for the sum of $23,408. And I'll answer any questions you have on that.
It's a check valve,
Thank goodness.
not a check value.
Back up, check valve.
Check
sorry.
valve.
So, check valve. The second one is a recommendation from the sewer committee and, of course, Kari, to award New England Pump and Valve Company for a mud well pump number 1 repair project for the sum of $15,158. And Tony will answer any questions you have on that one.
What size Johnson rod?
Okay, so item C and D, any questions on the influent check valve repair or the mud well pump repair project?
And we do not have executive session tonight, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Okay, moving along to item 6, Town Attorney's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As was announced and discussed at the public hearing, there are 2 ordinances that are on for action tonight. The first being an illicit discharge of the connection and stormwater ordinance, as well as a proposed ordinance for the sewer exclusion zone ordinance. I think that a summary has been provided for each. In your packet, I did provide all of you with an opinion letter indicating that I did not believe and still don't believe that it violates any existing ordinances, town charter, U.S. or state constitution. I think that, assuming there are no questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, it is on for action tonight.
Okay, any questions for the town attorney? Hearing none, we'll move on to public communications. We will open up the microphone for anybody who is a town resident or employee of the town of Southington to come on up and speak. Just please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is this on? Okay. Jeremy Edmonds, 172 Marcy Drive, Southington. I'm here today just to share a brief prepared statement I was advised to put on record at a town council meeting over a situation that happened with the sewer bill. And I've spoken to some people that are already in this room actually about it before. So I'm just going to share it with you. I got copies to distribute if there's something needed for a physical record. I don't know if maybe you might need a copy.
Jeremy, what's your address again, please?
172 Marcy Drive.
Marcy
Sorry.
Drive.
Yeah, I mumble a little bit when I talk fast.
No worries.
So feel free to stop me.
Thank you.
In November, I received my latest sewer bill and was shocked. It was 3 times higher than my highest sewer bill, and the usage was 5 times higher, 75 HCF versus 15. I called the sewer department and inquired. That was the first time after living here almost 1.5 years that they told me the sewer bill was measured based on the water bill unless you had a separate meter. In June 2022, before I purchased this house late July, as a first-time home buyer anywhere, I did my due diligence to call around Eversource, the water department, the sewer department, etc., and research what my utilities might cost. In no time did anyone tell me about the sewer bill being dependent on the water bill. Additionally, when receiving any of the other sewer bills I was sent since moving in, 4 in total, none had any information included about how the bill is calculated. Fast forward to late spring 2023, and I'm setting up my manual sprinkler system for our large yard, just hoses and sprinklers, nothing fancy. We did a bunch of testing to see what could revive the lawn that had been neglected by the previous owner due to their leaving for summers in Maine. Because of this, I knew that my next water bill would likely be pretty high, but I didn't know about the sewer. If I had known my bill would be through the roof for both of them, I would have taken a different approach with the sprinklers over the summer. In my conversations with the sewer department that followed this high bill, they also mentioned that if I had put in an actual irrigation system, such as in-ground sprinklers, that would have needed a meter and triggered contact from the town about it. This, however, assumes that the only homes needing a system that covers so much grass would be paying thousands of dollars. Most recent quote was $8,000 to install such a system instead of taking a more DIY approach. I'm not sure I mentioned in here, but I have a half an acre of grass. Also, the sewer website doesn't explain this unless you know where to look. Over the course of the next 2.5 months, I discussed this situation with the sewer department twice, the water department, Director Annette Turnquist, good to see you here tonight. Town Manager Mike Ciotta, good to see you here as well. And I know you're retiring soon, so congrats. And Council Member Alex, I'm going to butcher his name, Ricciardone? I'm going to butcher it, sorry. Each time being moved up the chain. It wasn't, however, until I spoke to Alex that I even learned there was an appeal process. So it took me 2.5 months to get to that point. All I was asking in this one situation of the appeal was for a one-time adjustment to the outrageous bill. I was not informed despite doing my due diligence. No information was sent with the bills, and I now knew how this works and would not have an excuse for future bills. This situation resulted in exactly what the new billing rate structure in 2014 says on the site, meant to avoid unfairly burdening a select few. I am that select few. In light of all this, I asked the sewer department and committee to adjust my November bill down to the maximum average I had of $87.50 total, as there is no way our actual sewer usage of toilet, sink, dishwasher, laundry, etc. had increased beyond that, let alone increased by 5x. The same people still live here as they did since we moved in. Additionally, I requested they waive all interest, penalty, and other fees, as the only reason the bill was late in being paid was having to spend so long communicating with different officers to get it to that point. I didn't know until informed at the committee meeting that these are state-imposed and not able to be waived. After submitting my appeal, I was told to attend the next sewer committee meeting on February 8th, where I stated my case and left expecting a decision at some point. I believe you were there too, I think. The next morning on February 9th, Alex emailed me saying, "The committee voted to deny your request for an adjustment on your billing." No explanation, no detail. I replied, "On what grounds? Please explain how the town does not hold any responsibility in the situation, what I could have done differently." On February 12th, after the weekend, he replied, "The sewer committee minutes will reflect the detail. But from what I recall, the consensus was the billing policy is available publicly online and in paper, and if anyone calls, they are explained it in detail." There was also discussion that as part of real estate closings, all real estate agents and attorneys should explain to their clients how utilities work, and any reimbursement should be from the real estate agent or attorney if they did not adequately represent their client. The sewer committee minutes in question do not show any detail, if you want to go look at them, for the denial, so no explanation. In addition to a recap of my appeal that they put in there, just like this would be entered into record, it merely had a mention of considering changing the paper bills to state something on them, which was my recommendation. Nothing about why it was being denied. As far as the grounds that Alex stated in his email, his explanation is completely unfounded. In order they are available publicly online. I've already addressed how this is a blind spot, especially for someone new to the town. If you don't know where to look, you can't find it. And on the phone, they don't explain to you where it is on the website. In my case, they didn't even mention it until I was calling about the high bill. Secondly, in paper, we've already established with proof that this is not the case. There's nothing in paper, nothing in writing on the bill, nothing sent with the bill. Inserted in the envelope. Almost done, thank you. Anyone calls, they are explained it in detail. Again, this has already been addressed multiple times and no one did so, and they had multiple opportunities to do so. All these three things were discussed at the committee meeting as well as in my appeal. Real estate agents and attorneys should explain how utilities work. This is completely an effort to deflect the responsibility back to the homeowner. I am a business owner who for 14 years has guided thousands of clients through personal finance matters, including this. I'm well networked with realtors, real estate attorneys.
Mr. Emmons, you'll have to wrap up.
Yes, sir. I just got half a page. Thank you. Which lost my place. I'm well networked with realtors, real estate attorneys, etc., and I live across the street from a realtor. This is simply not true. Realtors inform clients of what the utilities are, not how they are calculated, so they could let you know that your sewer is through the town, but not a septic tank, but not how it's built. As a last attempt, I reached out to my friend of 20 years and former chairman Victoria Triano to simply ask if she had any advice on what action to take or who to talk to. Unprompted, she volunteered to make a few phone calls and a couple weeks later told me the town was unwilling to make any compromise. She was also surprised that the town was unwilling to do anything. Since all of the above, I got another sewer bill, and as expected, is back to the normal number. It is clear the issue was sprinkler related. There is no reason there couldn't have been something simple drawn up that would prevent other residents from having a basis for appeal, stating that this was a one-time situation and the brief details as to why, then making an adjustment to their process to remove the problem. To this date, including my most recent bill, there's nothing on the statement still or included with the envelope describing how the bill is calculated. I would like the record to reflect that I paid these overinflated bills in protest and call upon the town of Southington to take responsibility for their unreasonable policy of appeals and to make immediate changes to how residents are informed of this issue. Thank you for your understanding and time. My family and I look forward to remaining here in Southington for at least the next 15 years and remaining a vocal contributor to the community. Thanks for letting me go
Thank
over a
you.
minute.
Thanks.
Who should I give a copy?
You can give this, yeah, pass it down, just,
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
and if there's any consolation, I was in the same boat as you a few years ago. I felt the same pain. Yeah, it's, well, I paid the same high bill that you did before I had to put my meter in. Okay, so we'll pass those down. Is there anybody else who is looking to speak during public communications? Anybody else? Okay, we will close public communications and move on to old business. Item A, action on illicit discharge and connection stormwater ordinance. Looking for a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
In a second, would somebody be willing, would you be willing to amend your motion to include the comments from Val earlier that we need to insert 180 days?
No. Yes, of course. Of course I will do that. Thank you.
That's a yes? Okay, will you amend the second? Who made, you made the second, Val?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second, the stipulation to add the 180 days into the areas that were left blank for us to add that. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, can we please call the roll?
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. We'll move on.
Just for the record, Mr. Chair, for this one and the next one, they're effective 20 days after publication.
20 days. Thank you. Old business item B, action on sewer exclusion zone ordinance. We're looking for a motion there. We heard that earlier.
A motion to approve.
Second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion and a second. It's open for discussion. Comments? No? Okay, hearing none, would you please call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously, 9-0. Old business item C, action on report of Board of Finance.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously, 9-0. Item D, action on water pollution control recommendation for influent check valve repair project.
Motion to approve. Oh, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Motion to approve is presented?
Second.
Motion from Chris and a second from Tony. Discussion?
The town manager can't answer my questions.
Okay.
I don't
Hearing none, why don't we call the roll on this one, please?
Was it the Johnson valve? Johnson rod, I don't know what that.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes 9-0. And old business item E, action on water pollution control recommendation for the Mudwell Pump Number 1 repair project.
Motion to approve.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, one from Tony and then Chris. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the roll, please.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Okay, item 9, new business. Agenda item A, tax refunds.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that are presented in our packets.
Second.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Bill. Any discussion on tax refunds? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 9-0. And we are going to item B, the appointment of a member of the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, expiration 2025.
Mr. Chair, I have the name of Mr. Zachary Foti. He's going to be replacing Miss Ruth Sear, and he lives at 250 Budding Ridge Road. He is It's a Republican seat, and he's a member of the Arlington Republican Town Committee, and worked on some campaigns, and he's a town guy. Good young man.
He's had some experience, I
Yes.
think also in high school. Okay.
Yes, yep.
We have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Val, second? Any discussion on Mr. Foti? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Zachary Foti.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, everybody.